Hello, everyone, and welcome to ScreenWorks. I'm John Riarte, curator of the digital program at the Photographic Gallery in London. ScreenWorks is a fortnightly series of live stream events by Fotomuseum Winterthur in Switzerland and the Photographic Gallery in London. Together, we aim to keep exploring the changing role of the photographic image within the network visual culture. Each event is led by an artist, a researcher, or a curator who takes the audience to the spaces where their core practice takes place. ScreenWorks can be a live performance, a peek behind the scenes of an artwork, or a guided tour, among other possible formats. We have hosted more than 60 ScreenWorks so far. You can find video recordings of each of them on our website, screenworks.com, or on our YouTube channel. Please remember that if you have found ScreenWorks useful for your professional or personal interests, consider subscribing to Folders for €7, around £6 per month. You will support the program and its artists, and also get some personalized folder on folders.screenworks.com. You will receive files and extra content from the artists and researchers of ScreenWorks. And some housekeeping information now. Your microphone should be muted to avoid noise disturbances. If that's not the case, please mute it now. And I just mentioned we are recording and we will be archiving this event. Please use the public chat to send any comment or question, or alternatively send a private message to Marco for the Museum Winterthur or through me.
And welcome from my side too. I am Marco De Mutis, digital curator at Fotomuseum Winterthur in Switzerland. Today, we're going to experience a live performance, an epic live performance, which will unfold over Google Street View. Jason Isolini will perform the Ballad of a Laborer, a project he has built over 3 years of work and from over 1,000 of carefully planned photographs that the artist has uploaded to Google Street View. The artwork started from the discovery that the Brooklyn Navy Yard, as a privately owned property, is not accessible to Google Street View cars. And then he proceeded to work with this empty spot in the midst of the totally mapped world of Google, appropriating this space as a stage. Through his images, stitched together by the Google algorithms, Isolini approaches Street View as an artistic medium that is transformed from a map of a previously uncharted site into a stop-motion video and a form of expanded cinema, interactive narrative, and at times a form of network land art. The Ballad of a Laborer connects ideas of occupation to digital surveillance technologies and follows the story of a laborer as they look for a way out of the virtual architecture. At times comedic, at times poetic, the space of the Navy Yard becomes a theatrical set for playful spectacle, intervening in the spatial meaning, representation, and perceived neutrality of virtually rendered terrain. This is the first online performance of the piece, and we are very excited and honored to host it. The performance will last approximately 45 minutes and will be followed by a Q&A with the artist. Jason Isolini is a Brooklyn-based artist whose network interventions test the increased conflation of corporate, public, and private environments. His work has previously been exhibited at Public Works Administration, Anonymous Gallery, the FIDI Arsenale, Mary Gates, and Anka Kultis Gallery, UK, among others. Screenings include Microscope Gallery, Vector Festival, Cosmic Rays Film Festival, Mock Jungle, Ammerman Center for Arts and Technology, and Humboldt University in Berlin. Jason received a BFA from the School of Visual Arts, SVA, and an MFA from the School of the Arts Institute of Chicago, SAIC. Last but not least, he's a top photographer according to Google, which counted 25 million views for one of his images on Street View. So something more to add to his already long CV. And finally, I would also like to mention that we discovered Jason's work from Offsite Project. So we are very grateful to them. And also please check out their screen work on our video archive and on their site, offsiteproject.org, if you want to know more. Dear Jason, thank you so much for accepting our invitation and being with us today. The screen is yours.
Just unmute myself here. Okay. Yeah, so thank you, Marco. Thank you, John. Thank you to the Fotomuseum Winterthur and the Photographers Gallery London. And thank you for supporting many artists that I admire through this unique program. So I'm going to get right to it. Okay, everyone can see me? All right. I punch a clock every day. It looks like this. Inside is a space I take occupation. It's a print facility. I put my quality control suit on and become a laborer to machines. I feel as though the building is a camera and I'm a mechanical element of it. The forces that control my movement are executed through orders that enclose a warehouse enclosing me. Time is compressed and squeezed back out as physical objects. I move material I'm refracted by in this system to produce images. I define their shape and am shaped by them and the facility. I mimic routers feeding material, becoming print myself, imprinted by the misprints of debris that's advertising. Other times, I slowly tumble onto the production floor like a UV printer constructing a reality back and forth. It's through a reflection of the substrate that I saw myself embedded in this structure. I was a lens to this building as camera, becoming a part of it more and more. I wanted to escape these boundaries, but I found myself trapped within another set of parameters. It was a virtual architecture I was already existing within. Although this rendering appeared to be an echo of a fluid virtual space, I'd soon be wrapped in a series of digital bubbles depicting a new reality. I would experience a kind of isolation of the image, but as a derivative of myself, colder and more programmatic. I'd become a digital nomad faceless in a click-through cinema, or maybe this was a digital conscience to orbit. The facility I escaped from is within the constraints of the Brooklyn Navy Yard. You click this yellow icon, it will bring up Street View. The paths within the Navy Yard I would consider as a drawing. It also represents sequences of images as constellations. This is a cinema as a map. It doesn't have a direction. It doesn't have a start or an end. However, it's been published online over the course of 3 years. I'm fatigued, or should I say my character is. One could call this an act of radical cartography or a mapping of virtual private public space within a territory bound by gated entryways. This is a covert operation of both physical and digital inhabitants that's parasitic by nature. This is a comedy. Before I start, you should know that people are looking for me. Or should I say, they're looking for Lucy Ninjas. I've been tangled in the network, so my name has been scrambled. Lucy Ninjas is a level 7 local guide with 9,025 points. They've contributed 2,019 images and have 25,880,996 views. Okay, so when I left the facility, I took a souvenir of sorts. It was a piece of the sky. And actually, this is an example of a piece that had previously been moderated, so it's a little clunky. I thought of this not only as a piece of client printed material, but as a piece of data within this photographic sphere I was now existing in. I was falling over myself trying to run away with this piece of sky as data. I even tried to hide behind it, but realized it wasn't something that I was meant to hold on to. Oh, I went back over here. The weather is a performer in this work as well. The sky explodes into digital debris. It's part of the phenomenal reality that virtual renderings of such moments can exist. Snow becomes noise and the virtual image becomes grain. I'm going to jump over here now. So on the map, this area would be considered a small pier or jetty. This piece is called Red Chair Jetty, and in parentheses, Spiral. It takes place in front of a newly constructed WeWork building that went bankrupt after its erection. And so I'm performing in front of in my red chair here, going in a spiral. I was actually kicked out of this location by a very kind security guard who wondered what I was doing. He even asked if this performance had any conceptual implications, at which point I told him no, which obviously was a lie. I spin out of control here. So I should note with this particular performance that I was trying to make a loop or initially spell my name on the map. So this was an attempt at making a letter or maybe just a squiggle. So unfortunately, Google rendered my location. Let's see if I go back here. This is a better view of it. Yeah, they kind of rendered this triangle or doorstopper flag, whatever this is, but obviously it wasn't my my initial trajectory. So I learned I couldn't actually draw what I wanted. Okay, so I'm going to go over here now. So I'm in almost every image of the map here. Oh, I keep going because I can't see the map. Go back. Okay. So I thought I would try and attempt to escape with a Vanitas still life. It has an hourglass. Oh, let me go click the next one. You could see it a little better. It has an hourglass for the transience of time, the laptop as a symbol of wealth, and a 3D printed bust. Paintings of Vanitas still lifes often had bubbles in them to represent the brevity of life. So although framed through the window of our browsers, this image is spherical like a bubble. It's a flat spherical image depicting spatial depth. It is not a fluid architecture. It's an enclosure of pixels where the user occupies the nadar center of the image. So by definition, the nadar is the point on a celestial sphere directly below an observer. So the top of the celestial sphere would be defined as a zenith. So by definition, also, the nadar is the lowest point in fortunes of a person or organization. So that would be the user in this case. Because these images are typically captured by a camera mounted to the top of a vehicle, the only area that isn't covered is one directly below it. So usually one could see a stitching error here. Oh, it's only showing one. Well, so one usually could see a stitching error here, or otherwise a data abstraction if it's not patched properly. And so for the sake of this work, which utilizes standard tripod, it's been patched. And so it's like most images that have been corrected in this space. However, every once in a while, one may come across a black hole of missing information that represents the reality of image capture through these modalities. So even if you're trying to complicate the boundaries between still life and street photography, and the so-called neutrality of a spherical camera, pushing a still life a mile down the road, although ambitious, may have consequences. And in this case, it was the wind. So it turns out that this performance wasn't actually about the Vanitas still life. It was actually about the backdrop itself. And so you'll see as we click through here, I'm trying to chase the backdrop. I tried to actually rebuild the still life, but it wasn't good. So I didn't think that was an option. And it actually turns out that the user becomes the still life in this case. They are part of it now. Okay, so we're gonna go. Here. So this piece is called Print Media Tube Core Surf. Anything that comes from the print facility is fair game, in my opinion. So I thought I would relive my days as an amateur professional skateboarder and surf through the set-like space of this industrial park. The print to media core later, as you'll see, becomes a kind of totem. And so I'm just surfing through the space here. And then if you click over here, there's a giant box over here. So I would refer to this as another escape attempt of my character. I think, oh yeah, I was in the box there, but I kind of skipped it. It's okay. I also just, I wouldn't recommend getting into a life-size box in the middle of the road by the way, if anyone's wondering. So anyway, we're gonna follow this box. This is actually in front of the commercial print facility. So I've only made it that far, basically. Okay, so the next piece is titled The Theater of Objects. All these objects come from within the print facility. They aren't necessarily important. They're just whatever I could grab at the time. So the box, in a sense, manifests this theater. I also wanted to create this trajectory at night because I'd never seen a street view image at night. Some of the objects got blown out by the spotlight I used to light them. And so I decided I liked how that looked. And so I emerged from this box's theater, victorious. And then the user becomes the performer. So I thought I should have an art show now. These are drawings. These are what I consider semi-blind contour drawings from the box theater. So they're actually like images of the things that I just had in the last piece. So as we go along, the drawings get smaller and smaller. Oh, clicking through it a little quick there. Some of them didn't really render too correctly here. So eventually the drawings get smaller and smaller until I just throw the piece of paper into the air. And so this is where I start to get involved with actual digital interventions. I wanted to be really careful about adding any digital intervention in fear that this work would get moderated or removed. So I thought, adding a piece of paper as a sort of a cloud in the sky was a really secret way of sort of doing that. And just to sort of check, like, if I would actually be able to get away with something like that. So I did. So here I'm thinking about work, and I'm thinking about how it implies a beginning, a producer, and eventually a result, whereas occupation has no necessary conclusion. So since it has no temporal framework except for the passing of time itself, here I am just running an extension cord. And I like to call this one extension cord or orange line, because in digital space, obviously that just becomes a line of sorts. So two versions of myself actually get caught up in the cord here. And then there's sort of like an Easter egg bubble here that we're going to get to later. So I'm going to jump over here. So I throw a paper plane here, which I guess is in relation to the last piece of paper that I had. So actually you can make moderations in Google Maps on the nadar. That's probably about the only place you can. So this is just throwing a piece of paper plane into the sky. Somewhere over here. I eventually catch it. Let me see if I can find that. It leads to the backdrop, which I've also considered a piece of paper. And I will show you that this is how it looks fast. So as you'll note, some of these works function better as animations than others, but I see the entire work in the form of a stop motion. So I should mention that in order to publish these works as blue line trajectories, I needed to photograph 25 consecutive images in a row. So that's how these became blue line trajectories, so to speak, that would reference the Google Street View car. And I've also thought of that 25 frame rate as a frame rate. So I thought of it much like film. So the next piece is called Home in the Sky, Ode to Post-Internet in parentheses. I thought I should tip my hat to post-internet artists for inspiring me and giving me a reason to put a gradient in my work. So here I'm throwing a gradient into the sky. Again, it's a digital intervention that I thought I wondered if I would be able to get away with. I thought the sky would be a really good hiding place for digital assets. So I threw this gradient into the sky, which later towards the end of the performance, we'll see becomes a home in the sky. So as we continue, oh yeah, I wrote a note over here. So I messed up on it a lot. So I had crossed things out, but so dear user, you are a great explorer. I was going to start giving directions for the piece, go left to follow a still life, but I sort of changed my mind. So I am nowhere to be found, looking for escape shift command. I hope this letter finds you well. It is in the smallest elements of the image I may find my escape. And so I did receive a series of messages by anonymous users for a period of time saying, hey, I found your note and looking for me. So I tried to give directions. The still life is down that street. And so the home in the sky is still up here. There's an animation happening above us we'll look at later. But yeah. So here we're gonna go into an intermission. We're in an intermission now. So even though I didn't feel like I necessarily had to put everything in the map, actually, I could just leave notes, or I can just photograph the space as needed. So even though there's nothing in this space, I still photographed it, and it's still a part of the work. So here the gradient is here again. And I guess I go through the gradient here. So we're getting to the other side. Okay, so here's a bubble. Actually, I kind of should go back because I was actually interested in breaking into the Navy Yard with a bubble. Like if a bubble just broke into the Navy Yard and Google users would just follow this bubble that just goes through the gate. So what I was thinking of here is that there are a lot of different kinds of bubbles. So there's real estate bubbles, there's financial bubbles. And I should note here again that this is a bubble image that the user occupies. So it is a spherical image we're in the center of. And the image in this case revolves around us. So unlike a typical camera that would exert authority over its subject, the author and also the user are subject to their environment here. This is again a trajectory on Google Maps that is not like really supposed to be happening. These aren't real streets. I'm going through an alleyway in the Navy Yard. So I eventually catch this bubble and I get trapped inside of it. And then I go into a hallucination. So I think of this work as sort of hallucinogenic sort of ritual titled Spinning Wheel of Death, which is related to this, our favorite spinning beach ball. So this is me becoming that spinning beach ball. And so this work represents a sort of perpetual form of labor. Sometimes it doesn't get anything done, freezes the system, and forces one to restart. And I've thought of myself like this icon moving through space as a fragmentation of color. Also in this performance, I sort of focus on the physical restraints of balance, capturing my own distortion and movement through the camera, which I should mention is utilizes the same exact sort of like HDR multiple frames as Google Street View's guidelines say that you must, how you contribute images to this space. Okay, so let's see if I can click on this work correctly. I can't see anything here. I might have to reload it. I'm in no man's land, apparently. Oh, there it is. Okay. This is probably good enough. Yeah, so anyway, so the next group of works imagines what a new language of virtual graffiti might look like. I thought, what if my character had a marker and could draw his way out of this? I had already sort of hid some digital assets in the map and felt like I might as well try and get away with actual digital interventions. So not all of these deal with escape, some do. In some parts, I actually just run out of ideas or do whatever I feel like technically. But this is a boat. Maybe I could draw some hot air balloon of some sort and escape sort of this medium. Maybe I just need a ladder. And here I'm just making full-on digital, like clone stamp interventions in maps. Just wondering if I'm actually going to get away with this. I think I had just said, hey, I'm just going to actually make actual graffiti, and question what that graffiti looks like. I thought maybe I'd just draw a drone and tie myself to it, and maybe I could fly through this void up here. Maybe I could just pick up a piece of the image and go through this void in the ground. Maybe I needed a key. Oh, I like this one a lot. Maybe I just needed a flashlight to see better. And so we're going to get to the umbrella shortly. So I'm going to break out a chronology for the sake of contemporary attention spans. You may be wondering the response to some of these works existing in virtual public space. So the next segment wasn't produced by me, but someone on YouTube intrigued enough to further investigate. And we are in full screen HD. I'm actually terrified by this video. Okay, so we're gonna go over to that work. That work is called Bodiless Performer in Bodiless Cinema. Hold on, it's after this umbrella. I love how he goes through the, you know, like, there's no hand here, like, but anyway, so if one were to view this work in a VR headset or a Google Cardboard, which is possible, one would inhabit a spherical image disembodied. So the user here has no body. So I thought I would create a performer representative of this bodiless cinema. And so this is, again, a cinema where we're the center of our environment, the subject of it, and simultaneously missing from it. This work was also more recently co-opted by several news outlets. One of them, let's see. Okay, here we go. Yeah, headless man spotted in New York on Google Maps. See viral pictures. Yeah, here's some more. There's about, I'd say there's like 20 articles. I couldn't actually put them all here, but they all sort of emerged through tabloids. And so one of my favorites is actually here in the States. Z100 is quite a large radio show. And so this is Elvis Duran in the morning show. And so there's an entire YouTube video produced by someone named Scott.
Hey guys, this is Scott, and I got something for you on Google Earth. Now hold on tight. This could be an alien, this could be a magician. This could be a prankster. This could be a glitch. There's so many possibilities. I'll just leave it open to you to decide. I just want to show you the possibilities that exist before you. And I just want to show you something that's bizarre. Okay, this is just so freaky, guys. Yeah. This is Google Earth. And if you look around, it looks normal. There's nothing too odd about it. But if you move forward, you see this suit. The same suit you see back here, you see over here. And the suit is literally just a suit. I mean, I would like to say, well, this is an alien video, but you need an alien. There's nobody in it. It's the invisible man or invisible woman or he, them, she, I don't know what you call them. But this is, and I think maybe, just maybe, this is one of them. How did they do this? How did they do this? You can see the map down here, Brooklyn. And I just don't get it. Look at the shadow. Oh, come back. Oh, there it is again. Anyway, let's come back here and look at the shadow for a second. The shadow is just absolutely amazing. It's like he's dancing or
I am making people aware of shadows on Google Maps, which I'm very excited about. So anyway, moving on. The piece before this was shot in the rain. So like I said, I try to sort of inhabit all of like the forms of weather in this work, which I don't know if this is gonna look okay. Here we go. I think because we're on Zoom, it's so yeah, before this piece was a piece called Blown Away, where I photographed an umbrella floating through the rain. So again, this is focused on like animation, and again, these have all been sort of found by users in a way. And so this connects to the bodiless performer and bodiless cinema work. And then I'm gonna go, if I can go somewhere here. Oh, I clicked out of it. This happens. Okay. Whoa, where'd I go? I'm over here. Okay, so we're back to the bodiless performer piece. So the bodiless performer gets reincarnated as a seagull and flies through the Navy Yard. So this piece was also sort of co-opted by the Birds Aren't Real movement. So it says new government stealth drone with cloaking ability spotted flying by on Google Street View. So I was feeding conspiracy theories as well here. I should probably mention, I guess, that this was shot in 2020. So the flag is at half mast, which I think is kind of poetic to have the pixelated bird and the flag down. Okay. Oh, I think the paper plane is over here, actually. It came over from the other side of the Navy Yard. So I was deciding on whether or not at this point in the work, if I should start a business or not. So before I decided whether or not I was going to start a business, I was decided that I would take this Revel ride to the top of the Navy Yard before I did that. Yeah, so this work eventually also gets co-opted by a large Reddit thread. And actually some of it is or isn't functioning. Let's see. Oh yeah, here. Yeah, so I was driving backwards for a moment, so we're gonna go look at the Reddit thread. I did this performance and it immediately got like 72,000 views. And it became viral immediately. And so I'm going to go through some of the comments here. When he started driving backwards, it starts so much further back. This guy does so much other weird shit. No idea what's going on. Starts here with a bird. Pretty much the whole area has something different. Other people in fun colors, umbrella, beach ball, panel in the sky. What else can you find? Save for the future. Laugh my ass off. I thought this was fake. Check the map. It's outside Steiner Studios. I'm guessing this is likely some collaboration with Google. He was originally a pelican. I followed him back. Laugh my ass off. This is in Brooklyn, makes it 10 times funnier. I don't know why that would be. Look, it starts from here. It keeps going backwards. Holy shit, the whole area is nuts. So many cool shots. There's even a giant paper plane. It was set up. And here too. Actually, it kind of starts here. This is the start, actually. I also look around here. This is happening. Go forward. The bird comes with you. And this colorful show, go forward. They keep performing. So as you can see, there's a lot of Seagull. If you follow him down the road, he turns into a guy in white with no body. So there's 500 or so comments here for this piece. And so it also became these are some of the tabloid articles that came out in the Sun. Epic fail, Google Street View bikers blunder ends badly as refuses to get out of the way of the driver. So people thought I was apparently not getting out of the way of the Street View driver. So I'll go through some of this as well. So the video is titled "Don't Mess with Google Maps Driver." The clip starts with a man riding his bike on the street. One user claimed in Brooklyn, New York. User said it's in Brooklyn near Assembly Road. Another user added it was the Brooklyn Navy Yard. It's also important to note that Google Street View cars are not usually allowed inside naval shipyards, so someone inside the yard must have done this themselves. On mobile, it says Street View was made by an individual called Lucy Nenges. The video proceeds with a man driving down the road while occasionally looking back at the driver behind him. The driver is not visible in the clip. 3 seconds into the clip, the biker appears to be riding his bike backward. One commenter said, "Am I tripping, or does the 7th and 8th frame show him in the opposite direction?" One wrote, "In 2 snippets, he's riding the scooter reverse cowgirl." Turns towards the end of the clip, the biker approaches the building full stack. The bike lands beside a marked X on the street. His body fell in front of a mini tunnel. In the last second of the clip, the man is running through the tunnel again, looking over his shoulder at the car behind him. Reddit users are trying to put the puzzles together to figure it out. User wrote, "So crazy, I don't understand what happened." Another wrote, "What the fuck was that? Google Maps is making an action thriller movie." More tabloids here, which is quite a big highlight of my life. Google Maps users baffled as man drives backwards, crashes, and then runs away. I know my teenage self is very, very proud. This is the meme that went viral. So yeah, that meme has been all over the internet, everywhere. And so I'm going to show you another YouTube submitted video by a user, all intrigued by this piece.
Oh, okay. He see us, so now he go forward. No i jedzie. No i dalej się ściga z tym samochodem Google'a. Very good, very good. So let's go. Okay. What he gonna do now? Let's see what he gonna do. Oh, he turning left. Oh no. Okay, let oh, he get up. What the heck? Okay, so I went back. And... Ah! What the heck? Oh.
Okay, what the heck is right? So anyway, so we skipped a kind of piece over here, so I'm going to go back a little bit. I think it's over here. Yeah, so actually someone tipped me off about a potential Google Street View street that was a prototype for like a smart street of some kind. So it was here. And I was actually interested in sort of, and I think some of the actual panoramas have been removed. But anyway, I was interested in sort of taking this intellectual property and sort of running away with it. So that's kind of like what I did in this piece prior to the scooter. And it actually, again, started to rain. So, you know, again, I sort of invited this sort of part of the performance. And as you can see, the multiplicity of myself here before I get to the scooter work. So yeah, I just wanted to say that the scooter piece sort of summed up the work for me in a sense, and also created an internet mythology that I didn't anticipate. So it didn't occur to me that people might think I was getting traced by the Google Street View car at that point, because I created so many performances prior. But regardless, it made me really nervous that you know, the piece would get moderated. And it did get moderated numerous times, and I republished it, and then it got removed, and I republished it. So the piece is still alive and well, I guess. So I'm gonna, before I show you the last piece, I'm just gonna show you some essay that I wrote that's in this parking lot. So this sort of ties the work together, and then I'll show you sort of the last work. So I'm born again into a digital bubble, or maybe a shell of virtual public space. Enveloped in the isolation of the image, I've become a derivative of myself, however colder and more programmatic. I drop a pin here and there, but I'm really not sure where I am. I know I was once conceived through the form of a woman, but shortly after, I've shed my skin, lost my birth mother, and lost myself. I've become a digital nomad, faceless in a mundane click-through cinema. I'm wondering how I might escape this territory. The image sphere that's become my home is a digital conscience to orbit. My thoughts flee suffocation through a browser skimming my reality, and at the center, a bodiless spectator is anchored to a nadir of data abstraction. I'm stuck in another constellation, a production line without a beginning or an end. However, I'm used to this. I was once stuck in a building as camera, just as the post-industrial gig worker inhabits their camera-strapped vehicle. Escaping through the exhaust pipe of the image economy, I've been captured through the everlasting gaze of a spherical apparatus. Grasping at pixels of public good with their white glove-shaped cursor, my surroundings as byproduct are translated into priority ad placement. But there I am. This time I've got a piece of the sky and I won't let them take it from me. Surely the Chevron rendering click-through rate will accumulate enough revenue for my own data mining, won't it? I'm just trying to escape my own digitized conditions with a little souvenir. And heck, if it snows in the metaverse, is it really snow or digital debris? The perpetual labor of that multicolored spinning beach ball on my screen, is that me? If I'm in or on or lost at the lowest layer of hierarchy in an ever-evolving augmentation of the online civic realm, do we even need another ad placed over my failed attempts at escaping it? Even if I'm going nowhere fast, can I just start a business on the side of the road? You become me and we'll flip digital assets for virtual land? Okay, you're me and you're at my desk ready to slip out before the boss makes you clump together pixelated landscapes to cling to store windows. You stay in your quality control suit as not to draw too much attention to your departure. Exiting the print shop, the CMYK ink you spilled on your suit earlier turns to RGB. You've been rasterized. Years later, after digitally mapping a territory, you find that the closed system ecology of the image sphere is seamless. There's no way out, or is there? Oh no. Uh-oh. The last part of the essay. Is it missing? It might be. Oh boy. All right, well, the last part of the essay, I think got moderated somehow. I don't know, that's strange, but oh, maybe it's there. Oh no, there it is. Sorry, I gotta figure out which number it is. Is it here? Oh no. We're stuck in an essay right now. Hold on. I don't know if that's the last one. Okay. We might just have to move on from this, but I guess the end of the piece, we'll end it up here. It's possible that that actually got moderated, which I'm not sure, but we're going to go up to the top of the Navy Yard. So at the end, I actually slip through the void of data abstraction and the user becomes me. So you actually become a virtual miner now. So basically this last work is an ode to the bodiless labor of virtual miners, users clicking through virtual territory. And so this is a cinema that the user has been a performer of all along. Thank you. And I guess that these are all the pieces in their stop motion sort of fashion.
Thank you so much, Jason. This has been fantastic. Really, really brilliant work. Thanks for sharing it with us. And now I think also if everybody has questions, now we can open up a little bit discussion. So feel free to just drop your questions in the chat. In the meantime, I wanted to also let you know, I don't know if you could see the chat, there were already like people who started getting, you know, like cinematic references to the section. So that was also quite interesting to see both in the chat and both in the examples that you showed from internet forums and tabloids, how your work is received in so many different ways and how it could sit in so many different trajectories in media, right? Like, I guess that my first question for you, like, do you see, how are we to see this more as a cinema, stop motion video, you know, performing the internet, or you talked about land art, interactive literature even. What is this?
Yeah, that's a really good question. And yeah, I think the last piece was like one of the things that I thought was like, well, I didn't actually make a piece that was like based on text and just moving through Street View as a medium of writing. So I thought I would write that essay, which funny enough, I can't believe that last piece is missing currently, but I'll have to look into that. But yeah, I think we spoke about this before. I'm not sure how it's really hard to figure out how to frame it. And I feel like I'm really thankful again for being able to perform the piece. It's live, it's still on the internet. And that's really exciting for me to be able to have this opportunity to kind of display it for people in a way that I feel is possibly the best way for me to sort of explain the work.
Thank you from my side too. It's been really interesting and fun also to see you performing the piece. I mean, it has so many layers, not only thinking on public and private space or the online and the physical space. I mean, I'm all these like derivatives, all these mashups and works that came out of the work itself are also really interesting, from the press to users to like everyone who has been like reacting, or even like the references shared here on the chat. Yeah. I had a comment here, a question from Dan saying that loving this project and see it in some way as a kind of digital Muybridge experiment, but looking at the space rather than motion itself, although Jason mentions seeing it as a stop motion. And Dan asks, will be interesting to see if Jason will see it expanding it or collaborating with other Street View anonymous users.
Yeah, I mean, it's certainly something that I've like thought of for a long time, about like having programming through Street View. Or I was actually hoping like that, you know, in the greater sort of ideas, it's like, well, why isn't there a like performance allowed, so to speak, in Street View? It's so strange to me that, you know, we would have to be like blurring users or this, and so I find it kind of odd that hasn't been opened up yet. But again, like, I think that the early use of Street View right now is about creating sort of a layer hierarchy of mapping. And so that they wouldn't want this layer of the map to be sort of disrupted, because this is like the layer to build upon, where maybe the augmented reality can start to come in and things like that. So I'm certainly disrupting their neutrality and trying to remain within the guidelines of their sort of protocol. So I mean, like in the sense of, I've mentioned Dogma 95 as some influence on me in terms of trying to remain in the guidelines. Like, is a bubble allowed to be in Google Street View? Like, I guess so, you know. It's like, well, how do I sort of interject in these ways and physically augment this? And in terms of cinema, I've obviously been inspired by Buster Keaton and like sort of the labor work of Charlie Chaplin. And the most inspiring, I think, for me has been Jacques Satie's Playtime, which is just a work that is very idiosyncratic and he built basically a whole set for this film, which was a commercial failure, but in a lot of ways sort of relates to how I feel about performing in Google Maps.
Thanks. I'm thinking about, what you just said, this negotiation somehow with the platform, about being inside the rules, the terms and conditions, and carving out this artistic freedom. I think there's something interesting, especially that we've seen on Screenworks. I think with, I'm thinking Gretchen, Andrew talking about SEO and Google indexing, on this idea of like not going against it, but staying within what the platform allows. Or of course we had Mario Santamaria, of course, also using like a Google Street View in a different way, or even David Horvitz, right, with Wikipedia. I wonder if there's like there's something that you see as a trajectory for you, as kind of like, is there some sort of like artistic form in, speaking of like almost a rule that you gave yourself that you want to work within the platform, or is something just out of necessity, like, in order to stay within the possibility of these images to stay alive?
Yeah, I mean, that was sort of the idea. Like, I mean, I wanted it to stay alive as long as possible, because I had actually made much more, with Offsite, I had done a lot more elaborate sort of collages. Like, I'd been working with 360 images for a while, so I'd make a lot of different digital collages and interventions. But in this case, I actually thought like sort of the opposite. I thought it was potentially more interesting for me to like sort of just inhabit the image, like without making like a huge amount of interventions, and staying within sort of the guidelines of it. Trying to think.
Yeah, I was also curious to know if like the playfulness of the project, if that's something that was sort of like on purpose to question like this like objectivity that Google Maps seems to try to build, or if it was something that just happened while you like realized that you were able to do all that there.
Yeah, I think like, yeah, well, I mean, I think like just generally like my work wants to be like playful. I think just as myself, like when you get out there, I mean, I think like, I used to say to myself, like, this is totally like going for broke art. I would be going out there every day. I mean, this is way before people were like going crazy with NFTs, but I was like, I'm making this digital art like for the sake of making it, for the sake of covering this sort of territory, in a sense. So yeah, I don't know.
And so you spoke a little bit about moderation, right, towards the end, trying to find this final piece of the essay. Maybe could you tell us a little bit about how you dealt with that? Have you noticed that some of your images went missing? And
yeah, no, I mean, it's extremely tedious. I mean, I think when you're dealing with like this sort of network system, I think like in regards to your other question too, like about like embedding myself in this network, I was interested in not necessarily making it so much about like, this is a digital intervention. I was more interested in actually creating a narrative and using it as a medium. And I'm still interested, I think, in a lot of ways, like, that's come from this project that, I mean, there's a lot of ways to tell narrative in Street View through images that could go in different directions. And that's something that I haven't yet explored. I think I've sort of just decided to claim the project at a certain point because I'd worked so long on it, and that required a lot of writing and reflection and thinking about what I had actually done, because a lot of the way I work is coming up with an idea and then just going to do it. And then, if it fails, if the backdrop blows over in the middle of the road, I'm sort of just stuck there and I'm like, what am I doing right now? And then, trying to figure out what it's about. But I mean, so many sort of poetic things would happen in that case, like where, it's about the backdrop. Like, how interesting is that for me? And to think about like the user becoming the still life, like that, it was like almost this like weird, like sort of live art happening. It was really just like a thought process. And I really think of Street View, or like sort of the orbital nature of the images as a sort of like as sort of thinking in a sense, you know, as a sort of consciousness. So I mean, that's how I've sort of tried to not try and constrain the project too much in that sense, where like if I have an idea, I could just go do it. You know, because nothing has happened like that in Street View anyway. So everything felt like it was so open. I could do whatever I really wanted to.
And why do you think that it will be so inviting? Because I do feel that the project is so, I mean, it's not only because if it's interactive and you can like walk through it, but all these reactions, like all this virality that happened, and even here on the chat, not everyone looking into the references, was that something that you could like anticipate, that you thought that that could potentially happen, or were you very surprised when you saw that the tabloids picked up on it?
Yeah, well, once that happened, I mean, I realized something that was so obvious, and that it was like, well, this is a narrative that's happening from a sort of point of view or perspective of the viewer, that this is a reality that is typically captured by the Street View car, and like, how would I be on this motorcycle in front of it without it being completely real? And I mean, I covered my steps, right? Like I you know, retouched the camera out of it. Like I was very careful. Here I am in the Navy Yard for, you know, the entire day, basically driving past the camera and moving 10 feet. And people would be like, probably driving past, like, what is this guy doing? You know, Navy Yard security would see me all the time, and I just like wave at them, you know. And I did this like in a way with like a regular photographic camera. So it's just like, you know, I photographed in all directions. So it wasn't too conspicuous. It kind of just looked like I was just a photographer out there, you know, doing something. I think they got used to seeing me, but yeah, I mean, that your question, sorry, opened up really fundamental idea of Street View, which is the narrative that takes place from afar, and the Street View driver being involved in that. And no, I didn't anticipate it at all. And then I thought, oh my God, I'm an idiot. Like, it's because I had done so much. Like, prior, I didn't think about it. But then after that, obviously that became a huge element of it. And towards the end of the project, is something I could certainly think about more later, is really creating that narrative for viewers. It's like, in a sense, like creating this, I don't know, like fake media in a sense. Like I could create a whole sort of, you know, story that you know, looks like it's more real than what it is, but yeah.
I just got a question from Imogen Howard in via chat. I'm just gonna read it. It's a question/comment. I mean this in the best possible way. I have never laughed this much in a talk before. Simultaneously hilarious, intellectual, and mind-boggling. Your work is playfully subversive, threading a fine line between playful and satirical performance and subtly subversive acts in a heavily moderated digital landscape. You work with and within a medium created by a corporation with immense power and influence, an alarming amount. And I wondered how you view yourself as an artist and performer in relation to this corporation.
Yeah, that is a great question. And thank you for all the comments thus far. I'm like going through some of these chats. It's like, there's amazing references here. I'm literally like writing them down. So yeah, thanks to everyone who has been a part of this. And yeah, it's obviously it's an honor for me to be on this and show the work that is live. Like I'm very thankful it's still there, but yeah. So yeah, I mean, you know, a lot of this also stems from this idea of like, you know, it's a deeper sort of artist practice in some sense for me, because I'm interested in sort of the parasitical natures of like functioning within the network. So like sort of like user hacking, but like not, you know, like you find something that like, it's almost like finding a loophole in the network. So it's like, you know, users can sort of contribute to Google Street View, and you have to follow these guidelines, and you might be able to like make this trajectory. That's exactly what the work is, in a sense. It's me being really calculated and particular about how to actually publish these things. Like it's like half of these performances, I've got like numbers in my head about how many images I shot, like 12 bracket exposures. I'm actually doing like a really specific photographic, you know, sort of technique. And in order for them to like actually publish this as a what I said before, which was a blue line trajectory. So like in order to get those blue lines, you know, to get it to reference that it was from a Street View car, or you know, would be connected in that way. But yeah, I mean, I think of myself like, I mean, I love doing things that I'm not necessarily supposed to be doing. I mean, that's a good step. You know, if I feel like I'm not supposed to be doing it, then maybe I'm in the right place. But it certainly made everything more exciting.
I was thinking that even for Google might be complicated, because in one hand you are misusing the platform somehow, but in the other hand you got so much comments and so many like traffic into the platform that at the same time might be like useful for them to have you there, because it's sort of like a playful approach.
I mean, I think
photographer, right?
Yeah, I mean, well, and I think like that is potentially a concern for them in a sense, because what I'm doing is I'm sort of like augmenting the space and physicality, and like all of those views is like they don't make sense for them. They must be like, oh wow, this is a really popular part of New York, but in reality, it's me kind of like, that's another form of subversion. Like I'm subverting their data sets into making them think that, oh, these are just users who are just clicking into this space and it's popular and people want to see it. But actually, really, in reality, it's a performance piece. So yeah, I mean, I think that's another form of like subversion. It's these little sort of network tweaks, maybe. Like this is the only thing I could do is sort of just poke a little hole in it from the inside if I can.
Maybe just, yeah, I see, of course, also John McLean just write so much work, preparation, imagination, kudos. Yeah, in terms of like work, this is a incredible amount of work, right? You said 3 years, thousands of images. When did you know that it was over? Was it because of exhaustion, or there was like a moment where
well, I mean, and I told you guys before, like I had so much anxiety like about the piece existing and like wanting to traverse the whole territory. It was like important for me for like to create that sort of drawing of the map as like a singular work and not have any of it like moderated in it to be there. So yeah, it was like a big accomplishment for me to like get that far. And I think that there's still more I can do, definitely. I think like, you know, it was starting to go into like a performance piece that becomes a like a first person sort of like a gaming sort of piece after. So that was another sort of epiphany I was having about the work. I was like, wow, this is so weird. It's like a film that you watch that all of a sudden you're like the gaming part of it. And as we saw in some of those YouTube videos, I mean, people get like, it's like I'm a character, you know, that they're clicking, oh, what's he going to do next, you know, kind of thing. But yeah, I think, you know, finishing it up, you know, I had at some point to claim the work. And I really wanted, I thought after some of the tabloids and millions of views on getting these like viral memes that I thought was like pretty good, like, you know, bar that I'd reached. And so in order to do that, I really had to start writing about it and thinking about it more critically. And so that took a lot of time. And so that's what I've been doing. That's essentially what this is, working on performances, working on writing. And that's sort of like, I haven't gone back to it because I've been so busy like doing that. But in a sense, it's like almost feels like it's done in a way that feels right for me, that I've sort of slipped out of the suit and just left the suit there. So so in a way, there's more opportunity to create the next piece. Yeah, I've slipped through the void.
I see that Offsite Project, who, by the way, we thank you again for pointing out to Jason's work, made a question on the chat saying, has the online community that discussed the work ever worked out its artwork performance status or discovered who the author is?
Yeah,
I mean, reached out?
Yeah, very minimally in a sense. I think the people who really wanted to figure out who I was like could. It wasn't like impossible to figure this out. I had you know, an article a while back about like Google Maps interventions, actually for an offsite project piece. So it was like kind of like you could figure out who I was. But for the most part, I would say that like, yeah, I'm like still relatively like anonymous in that sense. Like people had just basically appropriated the meme, got a good laugh out of it. And yeah, I mean, yeah, I haven't really
doxed by the Redditors yet.
yeah. And like, I mean, again, this is like the first online you know, sort of screening of this, so
right. So Kala Gordon is asking, I think, following up again on this idea of the completion, is the piece complete, and how is it changed as the work is moderated? So I think maybe back to this anxiety that you were talking about. Right?
yeah. I mean, you know, like I literally experienced as we were going through this, I think one of the pieces got moderated, but it's very odd now. I don't actually understand what's getting moderated. I used to understand like, oh, I did this. And so, you know, or you can't fall in Google Maps, like you're not allowed to fall. So like those pieces would have got moderated, but then when I got the larger sort of tabloid pieces, like that entire piece got moderated. But right now, I mean, it's pretty complete in a sense. Like it's there. We went through most of it. It's probably some of it that I didn't go through. You know, there's more. But...
I guess that having some parts moderated also is sort of, even if I understand your anxiety, it's also part of the work itself, just to show how hard it is to keep a work in a platform such as Google Maps.
Yeah, I mean, it's exciting. I don't know. For me, it was something like exciting to be like anonymous making that piece. It meant more for me like that I wasn't trying to get you know, like, you know, revealed like right away. Actually, it was much more interesting for me to see and they continued to come, actually, like the, you know, articles or the Z100 videos. Is fascinating to me to see how people like were reacting to this. Also hilarious. So like I was just like, oh, I can't ruin this. This is becoming really interesting.
And I think it's very refreshing also how you allow all of these different experiences, right? Like this piece is something that you perform, but it's also something that can be accessed and interacted by users. So it's also like, you know, the piece is kind of out of your control, right? It's between the moderators, the users, and the viewers, and all of this. Speaking of that, maybe we can also leave the link in the chat to maybe the starting point on Google Street View if people want to go back on their own and want to experience this.
Sure. Yeah, let me pull it up. I'll start at the still life piece because that one's fun.
Because I think that's also the first discussion that we had when we met, that, you know, like I was looking at a piece online and then now like seeing the performance of it, it's a completely different experience.
Yeah. I mean, I think like most people have seen me sort of like perform the piece, have felt like that. They're like, they realize, they say, oh, you know, like this isn't just like an animated GIF or something like that, you know, because at first that's what people initially, you know, might think, because that's what I sort of show. But yeah, of course. Oh no, that's really too big of a link. Sorry, I was trying to do that.
Yeah, I guess that it adds also into the like playfulness of the piece. No, that it happened to me too. That I like visited it like 3 or 4 times, and every time I started from a different place, and I ended up in another place, and I didn't see all the performances. So there's the link. I guess that, I mean, we are having a really nice conversation, but you've done quite a lot and you've been quite generous already. So I think that it might be also the time to wrap it up.
Yeah, no, thank you guys so much. Thank you to everyone who's here. And I really, really appreciate everyone's time.
Thank you so much. Yeah, thank you so much, Jason. And thank you so much to everyone here in the audience.
And we are gonna be back in 2 weeks with meme researcher Idil Galip. So make sure to come back and explore the world of meme with her and with